Good evening. Welcome to the November 13th meeting of the Caribou City Council. Roll call. Mayor Akin is ill tonight and excused. Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Is there any public input tonight from non-agenda items or whatever? Anyone? Declaration of conflicts of interest from the council. None. Consent agenda. Minutes of the October 10th regular meeting, September financials, and October financials.
Move to accept.
Second.
All those in favor? Bid openings. Recreation van.
Good evening, Council. We went out to bid for a new van for the Recreation Department this fall, and you see my memo there. Went out to two bids in town, Gagnon Auto and Griffith Ford, and Gagnon Auto came in the cheaper of the two bids. So our rec commission has looked at this, and they're looking at would like your permission to purchase the 2018 GMC Savannah van from Gagnon Auto.
Council's wishes.
Move to accept the bid from Gagnon Auto Sales. Second.
All those in favor?
Thank you.
Junkyard renewal licenses. This is not a public meeting forum. It's
Public hearing.
public hearing. All right, I'll open a public hearing on junkyard renewals at 6:02. Anyone in the audience have anything to say about junkyard renewals? Hearing none. Close the public hearing at 6:03. Anything from the council?
Move to accept on the conditions provided by staff.
Second.
Discussion? All those in favor? Application for EPA brownfield funding. Manager?
We have Mr. David Chapman here tonight, I believe. He is working with CES Inc. and he can walk you through what's happening with this. We're preparing the application to the EPA, Environmental Protection Agency, for roughly $200,000 of brownfield cleanup funds. It would be a grant that we would have to match, but we'd be able to leverage those funds against the $100,000 we received earlier this year from the Northern Maine Border Commission. And maybe David can walk you through if you have any questions about the application or the cleanup effort that's necessary tonight. We're required to have this public hearing and receive public comment before we can turn the application in.
This is a public hearing?
Yes.
Open a public hearing at 6:04 on a brownfield application. Anybody wish to speak on this issue?
Oh, just an overview. I'm not sure.
Come up to the mic.
Just an overview. This is money, grant application for funds from the EPA. So the property of concern is the former Birdseye plant on Birdseye Avenue. Kind of the time frame for this is, like was previously stated, the application, this meeting is required, or a public meeting is required for the application. So there is a posting on the city's website, and for those of you that have seen the ad posted in the physical newspaper, feel free to respond with any questions or comments. There is contact information on both of those ads from my colleague Dave Hopkins, who couldn't be here tonight, and we're more than willing to address and answer any questions you have. The application deadline is November 16th, so that's Thursday. So we'd need everything before then. But yeah, if you have any questions after the meeting, I can linger on for a little bit longer. I have no place to be, so so that's all.
When are the awards granted?
The awards are granted some point in the spring, around May. I do have the guidelines with me, but I don't believe there's a concrete date that they had. But they hope to have the answer for the grant funds at some point in the spring.
And after it's awarded, how long before you can get to work?
It's a 3-year window where the work takes place. So the 3-year, either 3 years or until the funds have been all used toward the cleanup. Or 3-year performance window, I think is what they call it.
Any questions from the council?
May I ask, just for the record, what's the anticipated cleanup cost at this point based on the environmental work that's been done?
The anticipated cleanup cost for the entire property?
Right.
I don't believe we've actually looked into that. Last year we actually, so the total for the entire application, the highest number you can get or highest amount is $200,000. So the cleanup of the entire site, we're estimating is going to cost more than that. So we've targeted specific activity or specific tasks that we believe we can accomplish with that $200,000. And keep in mind the grant is up to $200,000, so we might actually get slightly less if it means completing specific tasks. So we're targeting the removal of hazardous materials from the buildings before demolition. And we're also targeting a specific area of concern for PCBs on the property. It's area of concern 5, and we believe that those costs will be less than $200,000. So.
But overall, reports that I've seen is it's probably going to be over $500,000.
It's going to be significantly more than $200,000, yes. But with that $200,000, it can make a serious dent in the cleanup.
You also have $100,000 from the Border Commission, right?
Yes.
Anyone else? Anyone from the public? Thank you. Public hearing closed at 6:09.
Move to move forward the application for the EPA brownfield permit.
Second.
Discussion? All those in favor? Unanimous? Okay, a new registered non-profit dispensary permit for Safe Alternatives located at 1137 Presque Isle Road. So this is a public hearing concerning Safe Alternatives at 6:09. Yes, sir?
Hello, good evening. My name is Leo Trudell. I'm the Executive Director of Safe Alternatives. We received our permit from the Planning Board last June in order to move forward. To the best of my knowledge, all of the information was submitted back in November of last year, about a year ago. The check was cashed, what have you. It seems to me like this was an oversight. It's a formality that just needs to be gone through in order to issue a business license.
Anybody from the public wish to address this? Questions from the council?
This is medical, right?
Correct.
So it doesn't affect anything with our previous ordinances that we have, that has the retail or anything like that. This is just
Anything else? Thank you. Close the public hearing at 6:10. What are the wishes of the council?
Move to accept. Second.
Discussion? Those in favor? Unanimous. We need a public hearing on amending general assistance guidelines. Jane, do you wish to speak to this?
6:10.
Oh, yeah, open a public hearing at 6:10, thank you.
The annually in the fall, the general assistance guidelines need to be updated to bring us in line with the changes have been done. The state provides them to us, and I have made those changes. It is to the overall maximum, and it also made changes to the food maximums, and some other minor changes under housing and the electricity. It is to keep us in compliance. It's necessary for us to do these changes in the fall.
Thank you. Any discussion from the public? Close the public hearing at 6:12. Anybody from the council have any comments on what are the wishes of the council?
They got that, he's got that down on the number 8.
Can't do it. Oh.
If you want to do it now, I don't.
Oh, I've been doing this all wrong?
No, you're right. You're okay.
I'm okay?
Go ahead. Move to accept.
Second.
All those in favor? Unanimous, thank you. Another public hearing on rezoning 3/10 acres of land from industrial 2 to residential 1 at 47 York Street. Open the public hearing at 6:13. Anybody wish to address this? Manager, what's this about?
We received an application from, Troy Haney, thank you. There's a single-family home that's been on the property, and it's been zoned industrial with the anticipation that maybe that would be developed or redeveloped as part of the operations behind it. That hasn't happened, and Mr. Haney would like to tear down the existing building, as I understand it, he already has. Would like to rebuild on the property a new residential dwelling, but because it's in the industrial zone, he can't. And so it has to be rezoned residential to utilize this historic single-family property. It's been to the planning board. They've held multiple public meetings and public hearing on it, and they've forwarded a positive recommendation to the city council.
Looks like when they did the map, somebody colored outside the line.
Well, I think that's because it was industrial and then they built the road from Sincock to York Street and that was left on one side of that, I think is the deal. So a new house, Troy?
Yes.
Good. Anyone from the public wish to address this? No problems with this. Close the public hearing at 6:14. Council?
Move to rezone
Second.
47 York Street from industrial to residential.
All those in favor? Good, thank you. Public hearing on rezoning 18 acres from residential 1 to residential 3 at approximately 30 Lee Street. Open the public hearing at 6:15. Anybody wish to address this? If you've been on the bypass and you've seen the horses in the pasture, that's the 18 acres, and that's why we had this request. Comments? Close the public hearing at 6:16. Council?
Rezone the 18 acres.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to rezone. Wishes of the, discussion, yeah, thank you. All right, what are the wishes of the council? So move. I guess I'm supposed to say all in favor. We're all in favor, thank you. I haven't done this for about a year, and I had 2 minutes notice. All right, we have another ordinance, and this has to do with releasing interest in properties to be conveyed to RSU 39 for the new school in accordance with previously approved purchase agreements. Open the public hearing at 6:16. Would you explain this a little bit, Manager?
Sure. When the city and the school district began negotiations for the new elementary school site, we were doing some deed research or title research, and they found that one of the properties at one point was conveyed from the city to the school district. So they control it now, and the school district is getting ready to just convey it back through this whole exchange for the new building. And on the deed, there's a little deed restriction that says when the city initially gave it over to the school district, that if the school district decided to stop using it for educational purposes, it would have to be deeded back to the city. Well, in this whole exchange of things, the school district and the state is saying they need a completely clean bill on the property in order to move forward with the new school district. And as the intentions are to continue to use the property for a school and for those purposes, they've asked that we basically revoke that clause and so that, or release that provision in the deed. And so that's why it's on here for a public hearing tonight. It's the city basically giving up a property right that we have.
Anyone from the public wish to address this? Is this the property behind the ball fields on Hilltop?
No, this is all pertaining to
the whole
the
works.
properties around Teague
Okay.
and Park Street. Yeah.
All those little pieces of land swap.
Yeah.
Any comments?
Is that also include Park Street?
No.
Public hearing closed at 6:18. Any discussion from the council?
No. Move to accept.
Second.
All those in favor? Carried, thank you. And now, number 7, Part H, Draft 2018 Expense and Capital Budgets.
The budgets, I provided you an update. We found a few errors since the packet was delivered on Friday, so I wanted to just quickly walk the council through those, trying to get it brought up onto the overhead so we can see that better. Basically, the budget that went out on Friday, we found where the budget included basically an extra $76,000 that didn't need to be in there. And so that has been taken out. There's been correction sheets provided to you tonight. And then we've also gone over the summary for the budget, the proposed budget for next year is that the total budget, including capital expense and improvements, as well as the enterprise accounts, would be a 1.7% increase from last year's budget. After meeting with the department heads and going through all the discussion that we had from the last budget workshop, we've cut as far as we reasonably can, and so we present to you tonight a total budget of $10.4 million. And as I said, a total increase of 1.7% over last year. The expense budget would be a 9.8, almost a $9.9 million budget, or a 2.43% increase over last year's.
Could you explain why we have two figures for the increase? So does it come out to 2% total average, or 2.1?
The 2.43 is just the operational expenses. And so just looking at operationally, there would be that 2.43% increase. And then, which also includes the capital improvements.
Okay.
And then you have the enterprise accounts, which would be the TIF funds and economic development funds that we get through the tax increment finance revenues. We receive funding from the federal government for housing and our FSS program, and we also have funds that come in from the state for our snow trail maintenance. Those funds are generally considered kind of pass-through accounts. We get those revenues in, and we have expenses related to spending those monies. And so total, when you look at all of those together, you're looking at an overall 1.7% increase.
Is this a public hearing?
Yes.
Public hearing at 6:22. Could you repeat? No. It's okay. Comments from the people that pay the bills? Yes, sir.
My name is Jim Serrato, a resident here of Caribou. I just have a question about the street that runs in front of the Hannaford grocery store. The roofs on that are profound, and I'm wanting to know if in this budget for the next fiscal year, that particular improvement is going to be considered.
Mr. Willett?
Thank you for asking the question. So the city has been working at a partnership with the DOT. I think it's extremely important that everyone understands that High Street, along with Bennett Drive, does not belong to Caribou. It is a DOT road. It's inside the urban compact zone, which just briefly means that we are responsible for maintenance. Anything that is considered infrastructure is the DOT's doings. The drainage system, there's nothing left to the pipes. The underneath is completely gone. The catch basins are falling apart. So DOT had promised that in 2018 they would do a drainage and infrastructure repair. They had no intent at that point to do any surface treatment whatsoever, with the exception of wherever they dug the pipes. I, along with all the city, with blessings from the council, has worked with the DOT, and the application is in now. It looks very favorable for a 50-50 cost share. And I'm kind of glad to say that the city has had money put away for the last 15 years to do the cost sharing and on High Street. So there's nothing in the budget that's actually added to the budget for the 2018 season for High Street, but the money's there to fix it. We've had money put in that account for years. It was just trying to get the DOT to do their part. Any other questions?
I want the public to understand that this has not been neglected by our public works. The State Department, whenever there's a project to be done, what do they call it? Gives you the tag number?
PIN number.
A PIN number. And we had a PIN number starting in 2005, maybe?
Yeah, back is.
Yeah. So once you got a PIN number, then it's in the works. Well, somehow the PIN number, they say it got, what did they say? It got lost? How do you lose that?
So it wasn't that it got lost. The original back in 2003, 2005, had many changes to the street. They were going to add a third turn-in lane that you could drive in the center, so traffic that was either turning into the food trend or the shop and save. And when it came back from engineering, it was so expensive that the state of Maine couldn't afford it, so they just dropped it. It went through a few years. It was mentioned to the city manager. Again, we picked up another PIN number where they were going to do the whole ball of wax, with the exception of the turn lane and the cobblestone sidewalks, and so the project had downsized, and that slipped through the cracks, no funding available.
And then when we had the sesquicentennial, the city put money in.
Yeah. Which
That was in
moved things back.
2009, and then it's, anyway.
Every
The
time
city's done their part, and we've put money in that we really feel we shouldn't have had to, but
I honestly believe that we are going to see the complete project in 2018.
So the skin that was put on that short run in front of the grocery store, that was paid for by the city?
Yes, it was.
that was done. If you leave this parking lot and you cross the 2 lanes, I mean,
You break the tank in the fire
right,
truck.
and Public Works felt that our fire trucks going across those, especially if you're in a hurry or this or whatever. So that's why only that section was done, was to protect our fire trucks. Troy?
Just a quick question on the budget. Obviously, I don't think it's new to anybody that costs go up every year, but is there any money in this budget for investment in looking at economic development as far as, obviously this budget's going to go up every year. Are we budgeting any money for the team for the city, have people working to try to bring in some new businesses, things like that to help offset some of these costs?
We do.
I know we're always focused on, we have to spend this, but is anybody working? It's just a question and typical to the budget as an overall.
The manager's time is approximately half is that about right? Half your time is spent on economic development, and we are reorganizing. The manager's working on a plan. I'm not sure, 100% sure what it's going to be. But yes, we do.
Is there money in there?
We do. And
Just to highlight a couple of things along that line, we do have an economic development fund itself in which $338,000 is budgeted. A lot of that comes from the tax increment district that we get. So as new developments come in, a portion of those taxes go back directly to helping spur on economic development. So that includes, we have Christina King Gibson here that her time is funded out of that, and one of her purposes is to build up interest in the community. There's been a lot of focus this last year on new events to drive tourism into the area, which helps bring in and support existing businesses and new businesses. We are also looking at, over this next year, we've included a position for a new zoning administrator, somebody that can help us spend a little more time and focus on revising our development review procedures and standards so that we can streamline those things and bring those things more compatible with bringing new businesses in. So those are a couple of things, for example, that are in the budget for next year.
anything else? Any concerns, comments?
Yeah, just bring up one point for maybe some clarification from the council. During your work session, there was a lot of discussions with regards to wages and 2% steps versus cost of living increases. And the budget that's presented tonight, it right now only includes a 2% step increase, meaning that on the date of their anniversary, the staff would get a 2% increase within the wage step program that we have in place. I know the council talked back and forth about should it be a COLA, which would be a 2% right on January 1st with no step, or the 2% step whenever the anniversary is. So maybe some clarification from the council what you would like to do with that. And just so you know, if you went with the 2% COLA January 1st, that would add another roughly $19,000 to the budget. So that there was, anyways, just to give you a little heads up on what the implications might be for that.
I think the discussion was, in consensus was for COLA.
That's what I was under the impression.
What's in the budget as it's, what's it as, right now, what is it in the budget?
2% step, meaning at their anniversary, whenever it falls in the year, that's when they would get their 2%.
For the public as it now stands, we used to have, for the non-union employees, it took them 18 years to get to the top of the scale, going up like 0.5% or less each time. And we're working on setting it up so that it only takes you 5 years to learn how to do your job and get it right. And the step would be, let's say you get hired today, on your anniversary date, you get a 2% increase for your experience, and you're getting better at your job. And we do that 5 times for a total of 10%. That's what that's about. So what's better for the employees? COLA or a step?
I'm sure the employees would appreciate a 2% cost of living January 1st. It's just, it does put more money in their pocket throughout the year.
If we do a COLA?
If you do a COLA.
Well, if that was the consensus anyway. The only other thing I heard is I was in favor of both.
Right.
Nicole was in favor if we had the money. Now you found $76,000,
Right.
and what would it cost?
So if you did
Do both?
if you did the COLA and the 2% step, you'd be looking at a $33,000 increase to the budget.
Over this right here.
Yes.
Does anybody wish to consider that? Still under 3% raise?
You'd be over 3% on the operational expenses at that point.
Hearing none, what are the wishes of the council?
What are you voting on now? 'Cause
I'm asking you what you want to do. I
on just
suggest,
that? Okay.
well, no, it's not going to change unless somebody brings some.
2% COLA.
Oh, we're still in a public hearing?
Yeah.
I went
That's
for
what
2%
I
COLA,
was-
I'm gonna stick with that. My original was-
Anything else from the public? Public hearing closed at 6:33. Discussion from the council.
Yeah, I have one thing. I don't think it was discussed at the budget hearing or Wednesday night, but we still have around $12,000 in the Nylander. As far as I know, we put that
Yes.
in there. For 3 hours a week and for the amount of traffic that goes in there, I don't believe that I don't believe that the taxpayers should be paying for that. I don't think that this works. As far as I'm concerned, it's too much money for the hours of operation and what's going on. I did look on their Facebook page, and it seems to be a family thing. There's vegetables being sold, and that's fine. I don't have a problem, but if you're going to let the Nylander family or whatever board members do that, I think that the general public needs to be able to have that chance too, and I don't know that we want to go that far. You know, for family reunions and things that have been used there, that's okay, but again, then why not open it up to the full public? And I don't think we want to go that far. I think it's time that we look at maybe putting the building on the market. I don't think there's enough interest there to warrant. Maybe move the collection to the new school or the rec center, or maybe they would want to keep it or whatever, but I think it's time for the Nylander to really, maybe.
Let's say we decide to close the Nylander tonight. We still have to heat it for the winter, right?
Well, yeah, but you could put it up for sale.
Right. But I mean,
Yeah.
you're not going to save 12,000.
No, but you've got telephone,
Yeah.
internet, you know, you've got a lot of other expenses and stuff. It's just, I think it's,
12,000 does the whole building, all for the year?
That's the total budget in the Nylander line item is about $12,000, which includes 2 hours of janitorial service by one of our public works employees, and as was mentioned, the phone, internet, cleaning supplies.
You know, the times have changed. It's a charming little building, but I think it's a lot of money for what the activity actually is. That's just me.
Council? Mr. McDonough? What do you think?
We've been struggling with that place since 2010. I think, you know, my only concern is even when we sat down with them the last time, we didn't really give them any real goals, other than we'd like to see it turned around. And there've been some improvements, yes, but, you know, but there were no expectations, so what do you say?
Excuse me, what is the building used for?
It's a museum.
The museum,
That was me.
yes.
Councilor Cody, have an opinion on this?
3 hours a week. Is that?
Mhm.
So for 3 hours a week?
It's mostly by volunteers.
You're not sure?
Volunteers run it.
Councilor Smith?
I was at the meeting now, I guess I've really done it, but I almost agree with you, the fact that if we're not gonna save 12,000 by closing it, we're still gonna have to heat the building and maintain it anyway, so I don't know what our savings should be by closing it. Something we need to look at in the future, but how long do we set on the building for this, you know?
I think we should have a meeting with all of them again and find out exactly what they want to do and what we want to do. And
I guess my
so I
answer
think
is
we
I'll
keep
leave
it
it in
going,
this budget.
leave it in this budget, but we need to talk.
I
They're
kind
not
of
here to
agree.
defend themselves.
I kind of agree with that in terms of, I mean, we can leave the money in the budget, and if we decide in March, I mean, it's probably not gonna sell in the middle of January anyway. So if we were deciding in March to close it and sell it for the summer season or whatever, we can still do that. But we need to come to an agreement on, number one, do we want to close it? And number two, what do we do with the building? I mean, I don't know, can the city, I don't see that the city needs another building, but who knows? And there's also the thought of, they have their own tax-free, they're 503 or whatever. I mean, it's also the possibility that you give them the building and the thing, and you guys run it. I mean, you know, that's another possibility. But those are things that should be discussed, probably.
Yeah.
So I guess for now, I'd agree to leave the money in the budget, but it's, just don't let it sit till next budget. If you're really concerned, talk about it in January
Oh,
or
yeah,
whatever.
I don't have a problem leaving the money in the budget and then, because we can always decrease the budget, we just can't increase it. But I think we need to take a good long hard look.
We need to have a meeting.
Because it's got a little semblance of family use than anything else. So.
We still haven't answered what we want to do with the non-union employees. Is it a COLA or a step?
COLA.
COLA, 2%.
By consensus? Okay. I closed the public hearing, right? Okay. Anything else on the,
We don't vote on it, just a consensus.
oh, we don't vote on it until December, correct?
Right, this was just public input, public hearing.
You just need our consensus.
Are we good?
Fine.
Again, I'd like to comment that we don't like to see it increase, but the city has really done a good job the last 4 or 5 years on our end. And we will continue to strive to do so. Okay, number 8. So how many of these have we done?
We're down to
E?
quick claim deed approval, I think.
Okay, quick claim deed. Manager Marker.
Council, this was a piece of property that we acquired, and we were hoping to sell it, and so we put it out to bid with a minimum bid price. We received no bids, and as such, the policy is that we leave it available if anybody wants to pay the minimum bid amount. And so we received a check for the minimum bid amount, and the quick claim deed would be the authorization to go ahead and convey the property out of the city's hands and for the minimum bid.
And this property is where? Roughly.
We have it, map 17, lot 31. Penny, does that ring a bell? What's the actual address for that?
Come on, you know it.
He doesn't have those memorized yet? All right, forget I asked.
The tax maps are online.
As long as they pay.
Okay, what other wishes of the council?
Move
Move to accept.
Second.
All those in favor? Okay. Request by Mark Weston for deferral of foreclosure. Manager Marker.
Council, we received a request from Mr. Weston that he would like to, in a sense, defer his payment, if possible, on the 2017 taxes. The indication is that he would be able to have the personal funds available later next year when he starts collecting an additional source of income, and he'd like the council to postpone the requirement for those payments. Our finance director is here tonight, and she can maybe walk you through what the implications might be and any kind of action on that.
Is this something that should be done in executive session, or? No. No? No. Wanda?
Just a little background, we've done this for Mr. Weston for 2013 and 14 as well. 15 taxes will foreclose on November 20th. So if the council chooses not to waive foreclosure, then we'll go through with our tax acquired policy. Then he'll have 60 days to come up with all 3 years.
And what's changed from last year's deal?
He has paid 14. He just finished paying off 14. So now he's asking for an extension.
Is he falling further behind, or is he making headway?
He still owes 15, 16, and 17.
You didn't answer the question.
Arguably, the taxes that were assessed have been reduced every year since then because of the declining economy, so you could say he's catching up a little bit, just naturally.
And he's received his disability, or has not yet?
I'm not sure.
Yeah, he said something about additional source.
Yeah, he said he'll have some additional funds come January, I believe, to be able to pay us more.
We can either confirm or deny that availability. So.
Well, usually, if we foreclose, we usually give people till the end of January.
Correct.
That we charge the full deal, right?
All 3 years they have to pay, yeah.
Correct. So that's the question.
That's what we're doing.
Right.
We haven't entered into any long-term,
No more agreements.
no more long-term ones.
I think in light of what we've been through earlier this year, that the right course of action is to allow it to go through foreclosure and give them a no later than date to pay it.
Which we've been typically doing.
Which is exactly what we've done with all the other people that we cleaned up this past year, so.
Absolutely.
And this should be the last one that I know of. I will be back next year.
Is that a motion?
I'll make a motion that we foreclose, yes.
I'll second it.
Any more discussion?
Oh, let me amend that and paid in full by January 31st. Is that acceptable to everybody?
That's past practice, the last few years.
That's what we would do it for, it was January 31st was typically what we did. I was a big supporter of that, yeah.
Any other discussion?
Can you just clarify that January 31st is all 3 years? Correct, we're gonna go through with the normal foreclosure process?
And sometimes we waive the interest on those in the past? No. No, we didn't, okay, I just wanted to make sure I was clear.
Any other discussion? Okay, there's a motion motion to go through the process as we usually do, and it's been seconded. All those in favor? Opposed? None. Resolution approving amendments to the Tri-Community Landfill Interlocal Agreement. Mr. Draper, do you wish to speak to this, or Manager Marker?
Council, this is more informational for you tonight. We've drafted the resolution to where you could take action on it if you want, but it is more informational. We've been working with the Tri-Community Board and Mr. Mark Draper from Tri-Communities and Presque Isle, looking at the possibility of merging the Tri-Community landfill with the Presque Isle landfill in order to maybe take advantage of some economies of personnel and equipment and so forth. There is still some back and forth negotiating as far as the actual merger terms go, and as I understand it, the most recent volley of negotiations back and forth, we extended an offer or a counter offer to Presque Isle. They've since prepared a response. I don't know if we've actually received it yet. And the Tri-Community Board will be meeting next Friday, or this coming Friday, to review that response relative to the other items that we've been discussing. And so through the whole process of this merger investigation, we identified that one of the things that has to take place is the current interlocal agreement that Caribou has with Limestone and Fort Fairfield. That is an agreement between the cities themselves, and in order to allow Presque Isle in, we'd have to amend that agreement to then include them, give them representation into the organization that we now know as Tri-Community Landfill. So what is before you tonight is simply the drafted amendments to that agreement. In general terms, it would allow Presque Isle representation on the Tri-Community Landfill Board. They would have 2 votes. Caribou would continue to have 2 votes on that board. Limestone and Fort Fairfield would each retain their 1 vote. And it would continue to operate basically as it has, with just simply the addition of Presque Isle having a voice in the matter. Now, if Caribou, if you were to approve the resolution tonight, we would recommend that it be conditioned upon finalizing the merger deal and bringing that bits of information back to you for final approval as well. But it also has to go to Limestone as a town hall meeting for their approval, and to Fort Fairfield for their approval. And it's kind of which city is going to be the first one to say we're generally okay with this idea as long as the merger deal comes together. So I don't know if you've got any questions about the agreement itself tonight.
Has the lawyer approved this yet?
Yes.
Yes.
Not official lawyer's review.
He hasn't hacked off, said do this, do that, or anything like that, right?
We've had a legal review of it. Yeah. We've had legal review of it. We've not had a lawyer approve it. That's up to you folks to approve it.
The alternate, is it in the bylaws where I read that if there's somebody absent, you as a board vote to move the alternate up to voting status?
And if I could, I didn't mean to interrupt. Just one last thing. Mr. Mark did an excellent job of explaining where we are in the process. The only thing I would add, specific to the interlocal agreement, the only other change there, is a substantive change that we've made, is that in the circumstance where we either A, approving our annual budget, or B, borrowing money, primarily financial decisions, those decisions will require a 3/4 majority, or in other words, 3 of the 4 towns would have to approve that in order to make that, allow that to move forward. That's something new that we've added as part of this process.
That just jogged my memory. The other thing that we tried to clarify in the amendment is, you may recall there was a lot of discussion of what really is the the local jurisdiction's involvement in an amendment in the future or adding people to the board in the future. So there's some language that's been added into the amendment to clarify that if another city wants to come in and be an owner entity in the organization, each of the cities does have to approve that action taking place. That was unclear with the current agreement.
So we haven't heard back from Presque Isle yet.
We are awaiting a response from our most recent operator.
So there's no action really required tonight, 'cause I don't like putting the cart before the horse, so to speak. You know? Ultimately, I think this is a wonderful idea. You know, the way garbage is going. But there are other entities in the state that are opening up new facilities, and they're probably looking just beyond their fence too. So I'm just putting that out there. I heard Hampton.
We're still this potential at November 20th meeting anyway, right? A better option.
And we can have a emergency meeting to vote.
Well, that's what he's saying, the 20th.
If the agreement doesn't happen, then this doesn't need to be done.
Exactly.
I mean, when you have an agreement that's reasonable,
Call us.
then
We'll
yeah, we'll talk, we'll vote. But until then, I don't want people downtown saying, oh, look, they let Presque Isle in, and they don't even know what the deal is yet. So I want to know what the deal is first.
Yeah, because you
That's
mentioned
my
that this,
opinion.
even if we did this, this would all
Contingent on.
all contingent on the deal happening anyway, so he is correct, I guess, it really doesn't.
But you can certainly, you could table the resolution tonight and we'll just bring it back and when the deal is ready and package the whole thing before you.
Move to wait until the deal's done.
Second.
Is that a motion?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
I said move, didn't I?
Is it too late to add a laugh track machine for when Phil says something he thinks is funny? Oh, I'm sorry, Phil. All right. Oh, it's been moved to table this. All those in favor? Resolution on discontinuance of Park Street. Again, this is part of the new school project. Manager?
So there's a process that we have to go through to discontinue a public road, a public highway. And this is the final step tonight. You've already held a public hearing that was required by state law. You've already sent out an order of disconnect, again, which was required by state law. And so tonight is just the final adoption of a resolution approving the order of discontinuance so that we can actually close that street. And it's part of the deal again with the new school. There is some concern that we have, and in the resolution it's written that the discontinuance itself would take place when there's actually a construction equipment mobilized onto the property. In other words, we would continue to retain the right-of-way.
Well, then why are we discontinuing the street if we're going to retain the public right-of-way? That's the whole intent of discontinuation, is to discontinue the street, take the public right-of-way out of it, unless, of course, there's any utility entities there. But so why are we jumping through the hoops to discontinue the street if we're going to keep it open?
Well, there's some concern that if we can discontinue it now, even through the winter time, it's going to be continually used by people at the middle school, or the other public that are going to be on it. It's part of the process. We have to show that we're actually moving forward with the whole land exchange.
And part of the discontinuance process is that any responsibilities that the prior holder had would revert to the new owner of the property to maintain and keep open and so on and so forth, if that's what they desired to do. So if we're going to discontinue it, let's discontinue it, okay? And then the responsibility for any maintenance or anything like that goes to who the abutting property owners are.
Which at this point would be half the school district and half the city.
How's that?
We still own T Park.
Wait a minute, did we just transfer that with all that other
Well, it will certainly be transferred very soon, yes.
All right, so that's what I'm saying.
Yes.
I think it's reasonable to leave the street open unless the school wants to shut it down until, like you say, we have
Bulldozer
put a bulldozer across the road on each end.
The public easements have been taken care of, haven't they? Wasn't there water?
Yeah, but doesn't the
through there?
RSU want us to do that? Wasn't that something, not the RSU, but the state, the education department?
The state and the RSU, they would like us to discontinue it and convey it just to get the whole land swap deal done as soon as we can. And so, I mean, to that point, Councilor McDonough's argument would,
We got plow for the winter. That's pretty much it.
if we continue to own it, we would plow it through the winter.
And then ultimately doing the construction next year at some point soon.
So what does the school want? Do they want it now? I mean, they're plowing their yards now. I mean, they could block off one end and plow the other end. I don't know. Is that what they want?
I think they're just looking to get this whole deal and all the land exchange stuff wrapped up and done, so we don't have to worry about it anymore.
I understand that, but once we vote on this, we don't know, how long does it take to get it done? Or is it done when we vote tonight?
We still have to go through and sign the final papers and get them recorded down at the county, but it would be done probably within the next couple of weeks.
Okay. So what do we want to do with the street once we don't own it?
Wouldn't it go to the school?
It would go to, it would be conveyed to the school.
So we don't need to plow it this winter?
Right.
That okay
That's
with
what
you?
I said, yes.
Okay with you?
Easy.
Okay, so you have barricades that we can put on Bennett Drive to close it off?
I will loan them to the school if that's what they chose to do.
Or the school owns it, and it's up to them to decide who can go through. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, it becomes a private way instead of a public way.
Okay. I guess once we figure it out, it's not bad.
Once discontinued, discontinued.
All right, what are the wishes of the council?
Discontinue it.
Second.
All those in favor? Opposed?
I'm not opposed to signing it over. I'm opposed to potentially closing it. I think we need to talk to the RSU and find out what the best support is for the town, because it is going to bottleneck traffic through there. And that road is crazy. I drive it every day to drop my kids off at school. There's a lot of traffic. So, and I know eventually that's going to happen, but there's other plans potentially that'll help with that.
I suspect that the school is looking for us to plow the road through the winter as well.
I don't think much is going to change. I think that was just tying up some loose ends.
So council, if I may clarify then, based on your discussion, the resolution has a condition number 2 that, again, based on your discussion, that you'd be striking that out of the resolution. That one, it read, such discontinuance shall occur with mobilization of construction equipment on the property associated with the new RSU 39 elementary school. And so that part we'd be taking out of the resolution, again, based on the discussion that we've heard tonight.
Number 2 would not apply as we voted, yes.
Okay. So we'll make sure that that's stricken off the resolution.
Airport key hanger, change order.
This is another one that's more FYI for you. It's not ready for your approval this evening. In fact, I received an email earlier today from the Stantec engineers who's doing the work on the change order. The indication is that the price tag has gone up, and the days necessary for the work have also, they've proposed those to be extended. Approximately, their initial change order, this would be change order 2, came in, they indicated a roughly $191,000 increase to the price of the project in order to fix the design error, and 21 days of additional construction time. The email that was sent to me today, they went, since my last discussion with them, they went to the contractor, looking at the time of the season that we're in now, and the construction methods they'll have to utilize to raise the height of that foundation or the pad that's there. They're going to have to utilize some warm weather cement construction methods or concrete methods, and so it increased the price tag to $206,000 and added an additional 22 days of construction that they're estimating. So as it is, I'm still waiting for final designs for the work, and still waiting for a final line item bid that outlines all the change orders that are being, or all the elements to the change order that's anticipated. And so just, we put it on here tonight if there was any potential for the contractor moving forward as soon as possible. The concern that we have is if we're not able to move forward with this project, we're going to end up with a lot of materials on the ground under the snow. It's not ready for you to take action tonight. Again, we're still getting updates, but we would like to maybe call a special meeting on November 20th and get all the information that we need and have that presented back to you for action so we can keep things moving.
So this is a design error.
Yes.
So the architect is responsible for the cost.
Yes.
The 191.
Or the 200,000.
200,000.
The full 206,000 that they're estimating would be the change. Yes.
And is the engineer still working for Stantec that designed this? Anyway, so for the public, they designed the building, it's too low, it's lower than the runway, drainage would go into the building, and the walls are already done.
The pad, the foundation and the pad.
The foundation is already done, and there's some wall structure done. Well, anyway, there was, and that was taken down. Now they got to bring elevation up a couple feet or a foot and a half, and that's what this is all about.
Yes.
Thank you. Introduction of an ordinance to amend the Caribou zoning map.
Ordinance number 11, 2017 series, Caribou, County of Aroostook, State of Maine. Ordinance amending Chapter 13 zoning, Section 202 of the official zoning map. Next one. Ordinance number 12, 2017 series, City of Caribou, County of Aroostook, State of Maine. An ordinance amending Chapter 13 zoning, 13202 official zoning map. And I take it we will have a public hearing at our next meeting for those?
Yes.
Okay, old business. Request for abatement of property taxes. Mr. Jamie Bell, manager.
During your last council meeting, there was discussion about the Bells' situation with their house burning down and their petition to have a portion of their taxes abated due to non-use of the property for a period of time as a home site. You directed us to contact legal staff and get an opinion or some advice, I should say. It's not a formal legal opinion that we received, but they did respond back, and their indication was that the circumstances based on the case law and the reading of the law would not warrant an abatement of the taxes as requested. And so we wanted to bring it back for a formal action by the council, whatever you'd like to do with it.
I'm questioning because I made the original motion and then withdrew it pending the outcome of the legal advice. In some of the emails that were going back and forth, wasn't there another option we had, building permits or something that we could have helped in a different way as opposed to abatements?
There was some discussion that the Bells, in reconstructing their home, they had to get a building permit from the city, and the cost for that building permit was about $1,800. And it was soon thereafter that the city reduced its building permit price to $50, or to, yeah, 50, depending on, yeah, $50. So a flat $50 fee for all building permits. And the Bells, they obviously they were a little concerned that they just bought a building permit, and if they'd waited an extra month, they could have got it for $50. And so that is a possibility that the city could adopt a policy that in the event a home is burned down or act of God occurs or something along those lines, that the city could, as a way of alleviating some burden, issue of building permits at reduced prices for reconstruction. We don't have a policy like that in place right now, but certainly something that we could entertain.
I would recommend that we make a motion to deny the abatement and then make a motion to rebate the property, not the permit fees.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second that.
Combining both.
Combining both, we'll do about one.
Any discussion?
Yeah, like, what's a precedent we're establishing here by doing that?
Well, since we only charge $50 for a building permit now, it's not going to be very expensive for the next person.
I know, and it's unfortunately for Jeremy, the situation happened, okay? And at the time, that was that. So what's gonna happen in the future, okay? You're gonna come out of the woodwork, and you're setting yourselves up later on in the future councils for maybe something that we shouldn't be doing. That's all.
The precedent
That's
that
my
we'll
2 cents.
be setting, if we are setting one, is that we would, if somebody loses their home completely, and they're gonna rebuild in that year, let's say, we're not gonna charge them for the $50 permit fee. I think that's the only precedent we'd be setting. Now, does those 1,800 include plumbing and electrical fees, or, I mean, plumbing permits, electrical permits are separate?
I believe it was all of the fees. I'd have to look at it. Penny,
Can I just ask where the 1,800 is coming from? Because my building permit fee wasn't that much. It was $1,075, I believe. I'm not sure what 1,800 was what I was asking for the.
oh, the taxes. Okay.
And that's, and that 1,000 was, that 1,075 was city building permit.
We can check it. I don't know how much it was
We
exactly.
emailed it to the manager when he asked. I don't have my email with me.
I didn't say what the thing was.
I'll take the 1,800.
So what I heard was that it was a little over 1,000.
Oh, well,
That's what I was.
that would be,
The 1,800,
okay, separate issue. Miss
Yeah.
Councilor Smith says, I didn't waive all the taxes, I waived it down to $50,
It's a $50 building fee.
which is the current permit fee,
Current running fee.
So we'd owe them $950?
whatever.
He would still pay just like a regular fee like everybody else.
And then that would set no precedent.
There's no.
You want to make that, okay.
I'll amend that to the.
Well, no,
That's what I.
That's what you meant?
That's what I
it
meant. I
is.
didn't, not gonna waive completely down to the 50 because it was a month prior when we changed the
refund
policy.
anything
that-
over
is that
50.
okay, Jane?
So, deny the abatement and
Right.
refund the building permit.
Less than
Reduce the building
$50.
permit to
$50.
$50 and refund the balance.
Right.
Correct. Thank you. There should be no question.
And, before your next question, that doesn't count the guy next door that built the house at a $1,000 permit and the house is still there, okay?
Right.
Now, if his house goes down, we can talk about that.
I'm not asking any more questions. Gotcha.
The deputy tax assessor, Tony Michaud, sent the total building permit fee that was paid was $1,075.
Okay, so he get so 21,025 back.
Any more
I think that's a good
discussion?
compromise.
Yeah, it's a good goal.
And we're doing it legally, we're not, because I.
Maybe if I might just share, it would be good to point out here, since we've had some discussion about budget already tonight, that the building permit fee, when you look at what happened when that was reduced to $50, we essentially took a department of the city that was receiving income of $12,000 to $15,000 a year, and it's essentially gone down to $2,000 to $3,000 a year because of that fee change. And it could be argued, and we'll bring some additional information back to you another time, but it hasn't necessarily springboarded new development occurring in the city, but it has been a significant reduction in revenue to the city. So that's probably for another time, some discussion about needing to revisit those fees.
Okay, all those in favor? Opposed? Done. Merry Christmas. Old business, that was old business. Is there any other new business? Anybody, manager, any new business?
We would like to have an executive session tonight if we may.
Okay, any new business from the council?
Economic development, personnel.
Okay, our next meeting is scheduled for the 28th?
Regularly scheduled for the 27th.
For the 27th?
We have one, oh, we have two, okay, 27, so maybe the 20th.
Thank you for joining us this evening. Could I have a motion to go into executive
Move to
session?
go into executive session, state title 1, section, subsection 4056. Economic development.